13th January of 2024, I took a tour bus heading to KL, and the pickup point was here at Bishan MRT Exit D.
What time was the bus?
Well, that's about 12:30 a.m.
Why did you decide on the express bus instead of other alternatives?
I paid about $66.20 for two ways. If you compare that to a budget airline, would cost close to $100, and that's not including the airport transfers. And the drop-off point is right near your hotel location usually. It's either near a shopping center or a hotel. This is a similar sort of bus that I took to KL, and I was seated somewhere in the middle. There was a driver, a co-driver there, and a guide, and all three of them were seated at the front of the bus.
So actually, there was a total of 3 working crew on the bus.
That's correct. I settled in and I was prepared to sleep through the whole ride. But at about 3:50 a.m., I was woken up by a loud bang, and when I opened up my eyes, apparently the bus collided with a motorcycle, and it went under the front of the bus, and it burst into flames, and I could see the sparks at the front of the windscreen. You can see from this video.
Oh my goodness, it looks like an inferno. What did you do next?
I stood up and I could see that a lot of the passengers were still fast asleep. I shouted out to them, say, we got to get up and get out of the bus as soon as possible.
You had said that there were 3 working crew on the bus that night.
That's correct.
Describe to me what you observed. What were they doing?
The bus driver kicked open the door because there was a malfunction because of the collision or the fire. The passengers started walking out of the front door. The 2 drivers were looking at the fire there and trying to contain that. Actually, there's an emergency exit door at the rear end of the bus.
If you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known.
But honestly, at that point of time, I didn't think about the emergency door. I was exiting out the same way because no instruction for us to do any different. I would have gone that way instead of towards the fire. And the family that was badly hurt, the Indian family, were seated just next to this emergency door. They could have been the first to have evacuated from the bus. They were the last one to exit out the front door. They were burned pretty much alive. Unfortunately, from that incident, one 17-year-old girl died and 3 of her family members were seriously injured.
Do you think that safety protocols were not followed, or there were no safety protocols at all?
The 3 working crews, I feel that they are unclear on the safety procedure in an emergency such as this, where there's a fire. A 17-year-old girl could have been safe, and she was seated very close to the emergency exit door, and she would have easily exited from this door and be alive today.
Buses that offer long-haul services between Singapore and different cities in Malaysia are commonly known as express buses. From 2022 to March 2024, there were at least 32 reports of express bus accidents. 9 of these reported cases involved passengers from Singapore. I want to find out, why do these accidents happen and what more can be done? I am at Lavender MRT station, one of the many pickup points for express buses. It's a day before the Good Friday long weekend. For popular routes like Singapore to Kuala Lumpur, about 20% of the buses depart between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. But the bulk of accidents, about 2/3 reported between 2022 and 2024, happened during these graveyard hours.
Why did you decide to do the overnight express?
I think because tomorrow is a PH, so we thought of like staying overnight and then like start our day in the morning. Yeah, maximize our holidays.
Wow, day is hot. At night I can sleep.
It seems that the road accidents involving these express buses tend to happen at night. Does this bother you?
I'm feeling kind of scared because I didn't know that such incidences happen.
So it's something that we need to be prepared for and be cautious for, but it's not something that should stop us from having fun also lah. So it's really depend on the driver, whether they got enough sleep or not. It's not that much about the night or the daytime.
How do you know whether the driver has had enough sleep or not? You wouldn't know,
I
right?
wouldn't know. Just by luck.
What makes overnight buses more risky than day buses? Well, I'm heading to Malaysia, where most operators are based.
Okay, time check, 11 p.m. I think that's mine. Let's go.
To investigate why express bus accidents occur, I'm going into Malaysia by taking an overnight bus to Kuala Lumpur. Based on reported cases, accidents seem to occur more frequently in wee hours of the morning.
I need to find a seat belt. Yeah, it's just not tightening. I don't know, it's not working. I can't tighten it. That's the furthest it will go. Look at this how. I think I should change my seat. Finally, I've changed seats 3 times, and this seat belt is working.
It is compulsory for passengers to wear seat belts on express buses, which is why I didn't expect it to be so difficult to find functional ones. Moreover, this is a popular operator with over 10 buses leaving Singapore for Malaysia every night.
I got here in just under 4.5 hours. When I asked my driver if he had a co-driver, the answer was no. I got worried because I wouldn't be driving the 4 to 5 hour journey on my own and without someone next to me to keep me awake and chat with me. To monitor the speed of the driver, I actually used a tracker. So if you look at this graph, I realized that the driver's speed hovered between 100 and 110 kilometers most of the time. There were moments when he hit beyond 120 kilometers to reach as high as 125 kilometers per hour, but those are not as frequent. Guess what's the speed limit on the highway for buses? It's 90 kilometers per hour.
In just one overnight bus trip, I've already spotted so many safety lapses like damaged seat belts and speeding. Not only that, there was no co-driver on the express bus, a requirement by law for distances more than 300 kilometers. The journey from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur is about 350 kilometers. Why is this happening? I'm heading to a car park near KL's main bus terminal, where express bus drivers usually take a break before or after their long drives. 2 drivers agreed to share their views with me on camera.
All right.
Krish has been driving for over 2 decades. He's asked to remain anonymous.
Why do the accidents happen more frequently at night?
Speed. Day we cannot speed. Night we speed. Traffic's empty.
What was the fastest that you've ever gone?
120 JBKL, 2 hours 45 minutes.
Man, you were laughing because you survived it.
Yeah, I do that. Even I'm a speed. When the customers say you are a good driver, you know, he say that you are great. Some buses are 5 hours. You are 3 hours. Good, huh? Yeah.
So the customers like it when you are fast.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yes. Actually, the speed is 80, 90. But it's sleepy. You drive for 80, can you do that? No, impossible. No, cannot. Driver, no. Where the place can speed, then where's the place not speed. Yeah.
Have you ever had an accident?
No, never. That's why I told you I'm a professional driver. When I'm driving, my eyes, my nose, my hair, my body, everything's to work.
I also spoke to Borhan Abdaru, who was about to take a nap at the back of his bus when I met him.
Punca kemalangan biasanya terjadi pada awal pagi ya, disebabkan pemandu letih, tak cukup tidur.
What is the longest trip that you have ever done in your career?
Kuala Lumpur, Singapura, Singapura, Kuala Lumpur, Kuala Lumpur, Singapura.
How many hours total?
15 atau 17 jam itu time drive ya.
How often do you do that kind of long drives?
Ya, ada masa dia tertentu macam time perayaannya. Kalau yang hari-hari biasa ni kita pergi balik ya.
During those long drives, did you have a co-driver?
Kalau untuk yang KL Singapura ni saya memang jalan setorang.
But isn't it regulated by law that drivers need a co-driver for distances longer than 300 kilometers?
Memang macam tu lah. Kalau you nak mau pakai dua driver, gaji memang macam tu dia bayar. Contohlah macam 210. Kalau you nak ambil driver, second driver, memang tu lah gaji dia. Kena bagi dua lah. 100 lebih lah seorang. Memang tak cukup kalau bagi dua ni.
Do you still get a basic salary?
Company tak ada bayar gaji basic, so kita gaji trade.
After speaking to several drivers, I have learned that it is common practice for some drivers to be paid a basic monthly salary and be incentivized when they make more trips. However, within the industry, there is one other group of contract workers who earn solely on a per-trip basis.
But for many workers, whether they're on contract or have a basic pay, the more they drive, the more they earn. This chasing of trips could be one reason why some drivers speed or feel tired for multiple long drives. I've heard from the drivers, but what are operators doing about these drivers who don't follow the rules? I'm traveling to Butterworth in Penang, Malaysia. Headquartered here is Super Nice Express. They've got over 200 drivers driving their fleet of about 100 buses.
Hi Diana, let me show you our 24 hours operation team to monitor the GPS. This is all our buses across Malaysia and Singapore. And this is the speed the bus will track.
I hear the alarm. Can
Yeah.
you explain to me what happened?
So you can show that this bus is over speed. So the speed is 109. If the speed is over 100, continuous 2 minutes, our team will call the driver, ask them to slow down.
Why 100 kilometers per hour?
Our government rule is 90 km per hour in the highway, but we have give them a tolerance 10 km for them to overtake the vehicle with the trailer, the car.
What about here?
This is not a user CCTV. This is a latest live camera to monitor the driver. So when the driver feels sleepy or rubber his eyes too frequent, they will send an alarm to our GPS team. Then our GPS team, the staff, will call the driver to take a break about 15 to 20 minutes. Maybe they are not suitable to continue to drive the bus. Then we will change the second driver to continue the journey.
Roy, when did you have this whole system in place?
Actually, we have these systems about 10 years ago, but because now our fleet is increasing, so I have to set up the proper GPS room to help us to monitor all the fleet. This room is we set up last year, 2023.
How much did you invest in all the setup?
Ringgit Malaysia around 200K.
It's quite a lot of money. So do all companies have a monitoring system like this? So do all companies have a monitoring system like this?
This is our government's rules. Before you can get a permit, you must install a GPS tracker inside the bus. But not all the company, they will monitoring 24 hours.
Compared to before you had the GPS tracking system, have the number of accidents on your fleet decreased?
We will decrease about 10% because our team is monitoring 24 hours, day and night.
Besides the 24-hour GPS room, the company also introduced buses with added safety features, such as a warning system that's triggered when drivers drive without their seatbelts on.
Please fasten your seatbelt.
And sensors that detect vehicles at close proximity, which in turn activates the vehicle's brakes when necessary to avoid a collision.
How much has your company spent on upgrading the safety of your buses?
Start from 2022, we spent almost 1 million ringgit to upgrade this safety feature in all new buses. For the others operator, maybe they not afford to do this kind of investment. If their profit is not there, so they cannot invest this kind of a safety feature.
Do bus operators need more funding? Juan Agil formerly worked in Malaysia's Land Public Transport Agency for about 7 years. The agency oversees the implementation of express bus policies.
To solve this problem, you need a structural change. I think there is not enough will, because at some point the operators just need to survive day by day to run the service. The operators will be struggling to make their business financially viable because there are so many players in the industry. When these buses supply the demand, they are running at the same time. For example, let's take a bus from KL to Kota Baru, then I can just take the early bus at 6 o'clock, sleep all the way. 8 hours later, I'll just arrive in Kota Baru, right? The demand want that particular service of 6 o'clock in the morning. That's why all the buses will supply at same schedule. There will be buses running below 30% capacity, in fact, maybe lower than 20%.
That was exactly what happened to me, because on my way to KL, the buses were only like 50% full.
What they do is just running at cost, and perhaps they make a loss.
What I just heard you say is that when you have such inefficiencies, it's going to affect the safety, because when they're not making money, they won't be able to plow the investments back to, for example, making their bus journeys safer.
Yep. Another problem faced by industry of express buses is the manpower shortage.
How bad is the manpower situation?
So, express bus drivers in Malaysia is not as lucrative. Because of the manpower shortage, I believe some companies are forced to just hire inexperienced drivers. If I driving for bus company A, and then I got involved in an accident, then I got fired, for example, I just walk out and go to express bus company B, but the express bus company B will just hire this driver because the shortage is real. I need the driver. And most of the time, these new drivers are not well trained to manage emergency crises.
So how can the situation with the express bus services be improved?
So we need to work with the terminal operators and bus operators to manage our supply and design a proper services. For example, if you want to travel from KL to Singapore, where you can have a straight service from KL to Singapore, then you can take bus A. But if you want to go from KL to Singapore, but it's cheaper, meaning that you are okay if the buses stop at Malacca, Johor Bahru, then Singapore. Then you can travel with bus B. You need to make sure that the operators will be able to fill up their seats all the time. So you need to diversify the services, allowing people to have options, while at the same time allowing the operators to make more money.
Some companies also provide a premium service that includes onboard entertainment and meals. This can cost up to 60% more.
Singaporeans tend to take more premium buses, so we pay a bit more. Does it mean that these buses are safer?
So while I cannot say simply that premium service is safer, in the case of premium service, definitely they can make money. Therefore, there is no reason for them to cut corners when it comes to safety compliance.
From a consumer point of view, is it possible for me to check the safety record of these bus companies?
In my experience and my knowledge, no, because I couldn't find it anywhere.
If there is no way of telling how safe my bus ride is, what should I do if I ever get caught in an accident?
When you buy a bus ticket, you can choose to pay a little bit more to include insurance. But some Singaporean passengers who did just that had trouble claiming compensation from the bus operators after their buses got into accidents. In one report on an accident that happened in June 2023, the passenger was told to appoint a lawyer before filing a claim. In another case from July 2023, the passenger was told to claim from her own travel insurance provider instead of the insurance she bought on her bus ticket.
Liu Teck Huat's law firm has represented several Singaporeans involved in traffic accidents in Malaysia.
When I was booking my bus ticket on this ticketing platform, I was given the option of buying insurance at $1.60 for coverage of up to $25,000. Some passengers who also bought ticket insurance had difficulty getting compensated when accidents happen. What could be the reasons?
When the passenger suffers a loss as a result of an accident in Malaysia, typically they will go back to the bus company to make a claim under the policy, right? The proper way to do it is to approach the insurance company straight away and make the claim under the policy direct against the insurance company and not waste time going through the bus company. They are not the insurer, so they have no obligation to pay the claim or to even process the claim.
I also read that in some cases, the passengers were told by the bus operators to appoint a lawyer. Under what circumstances would a passenger need to appoint a lawyer?
This would only be required, in my view, where the accident is a serious one and it caused serious injuries or even death to the passenger or the passenger's family member. The ticket insurance or the personal accident policy, they won't cover you for such extensive medical expenses. The bus company would be covered by a third-party liability insurance. Now, a third-party liability insurance means the insurance company covers the bus for claims made by, for example, passengers against the bus for the negligent driving of the driver.
So even if I don't have travel insurance, ticketing insurance or personal accident policy, I can still claim against the bus operator or the driver?
Yes, and the insurance company covering the bus company and the driver would have to respond to this claim.
So will I take the express bus to Malaysia again? The answer is yes, for the price and the convenience. In fact, from KL back to Singapore, I decided to pay $20 more for a ride on the premium coach. I left KL during the day, cleared customs in a jiffy, and got back to Singapore in just under 6 hours. But if you're asking me whether I will take the overnight express bus again, my answer is no. There are just too many uncertainties involved. There's no way of telling whether my driver has had enough rest and how fast he would speed. So even though the overnight express bus may be faster, I just don't think it's worth the risk.